So there is a JavaScript framework called Express, and Express it has a set of utilities that can enable you to run a server quicker, other than using your normal Node.js code. So for Express, we're gonna use to start up a server. We're gonna use Express, which is built on Node, and we're gonna use this library called Express Generator Library. And the Express Generator Library is a very quick way to start up any server on your local machine or anywhere in the internet. So next we're gonna Google Express.js generator. So yeah, so this is how you install the Express generator in your local repository, in your local system. You just do an npm install global Express generator. What that is gonna do is it's gonna download a lot of files that is required for us to set up the environment. So I'm gonna do that in my VS Code, which I have right here. Do you know how to use? Have you used VS Code before? Well, if you haven't, then it's a very great tool to code anything. All right. So which directory is this? I'm gonna get out of this directory, desktop, code base, and I'm gonna make a directory called our server. Nice, good. Yeah, VS Code is a very great tool. I'm gonna cd into our server. So now we're in this folder, and if you've used Git before, no, not Git, sorry. If we're using this tool called npm. Npm it's based on Node to install all the files that we need. So we're gonna do npm install -g express generator. Let's verify. So basically we're doing this, and then let's see what that gives us. And then we click enter. Oops. So remember, it's gonna download a couple of files, and for us to verify those files are located in our desktop, in the folder called code base, and in a folder called our server. So let me see everything that is included in our server. Oh, I made a mistake. All right, so the mistake is I thought that the files were going to be downloaded in the folder called our server, but instead, because we set it to install globally, it is somewhere in our machine in this path, app data roaming. That's where the Express generator was downloaded. So let's follow the instructions on here. Let me not guess and think that I know before I command them. All right. It says here that we use now the Express display command. We use the Express command after I've installed this. We use the Express command to start up everything, and these are the options that we can use after Express. So right in here. All right, great. Let's go ahead and create a file, the folder that's gonna download all our repository. We're gonna do Express my app. And what that is gonna do is it's gonna create it's gonna create a new application called my app in this our server folder. So if I do ls here, you see that we have a folder called my app. So I'm gonna go into that folder by typing cd cd my app. Now we're in my app, and if I do a ls, you see these are all the files that were downloaded initially in there. All right, so what is gonna happen now is um I'm gonna set this directory as my working directory so that we can see all the files of my app in here. So to do that, I'm gonna come in here, and basically I'm gonna open a new code session, and I'm gonna do code dot into this directory, and that's gonna open a new Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna close this one, and I'm gonna show you this is our new VS Code. So now we see all the files in Express in my app. So now that we are in this my app directory, I'm going to open my terminal again, and I'm going to run this app. But before I run this app, I need to know what configurations am I allowed to run this app. So to view that, I'm going to go to package.json. Package.json is where you have all the node configurations for which you need to run this app, and it tells you more about the app. This is the name of the app, this is a version of the app, this is it says private true. I'm not sure of what that means, but we'll just keep it for now. And we have scripts. Scripts is the command we're going to type in here to start our node server. And then we have another object here called dependencies. Dependencies are the other files which we're going to pull somewhere from the internet, which are dependent on this app for which are going to help this app to run. So we have a cookie parser, we have a debugger, we have Express itself, we have HTTP errors, we have Jade, we have Morgan. So we are gonna try to launch our app by doing npm start. So it failed. So we have some errors in here, and what are the errors saying? So these errors are saying that internal module CJ loader cannot file module HTTP errors. All right. So the reason why these errors are here is because even though we have these dependencies in here, we haven't really installed them, and we're going to do that by running an npm install. All right. So you see that once we run our npm install, it added this folder here called node modules, and it added our binary folder. So we can just go ahead and do our npm start to start our server. It's gonna take a while. Actually, our server already started. I was waiting for a status message here that said server started. So how do we know that our server started? So if I come to my browser and I simply type localhost port, I'm just type localhost, it's gonna open our server. Don't fail me. Oh my god, it failed. Okay. It did not work. So localhost, I'm just thinking out loud right now. So localhost by default goes to port 3000. Now let's see which port our, our application was being deployed into. So I'll go back to my code and I'll check on routes. Yeah, I'll check on app.js. On app.js, you will have the port on which our server will be running. And it says here, oh, it doesn't say anything here. So we'll go to routes index.js and it says here nothing. No, not here. So next we're gonna go to public. Oh no. Alright. I'll go to www and it says here our port started at port 3000, which is actually the same thing that we did here, but it didn't start. So let me just do this again. Bingo. That's it. So normally you should work with just local hosts. Well, I guess it doesn't. Let's try and open another browser. Maybe it was just a connection issue because localhost should default to 3000. Interesting. Oh, no, 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 no. All right. So I think our localhost defaults to 8080. So that's like a default port that most servers come with. So we needed to set our port to 3000. So this is that's our server. We have our Express server running, and this page comes from this file. Let me show you right here. This comes from where we say index.route. What we're saying is we're sending a get request of once we hit the server, we are saying that hey, once the server is being hit with this endpoint, run this function. And what this function simply says is go to the index template that we created in our files and set this variable called title to express. So if we go to that template file, which is basically in our views index.jade. Jade is a template engine that is being used by default. We can change it to whatever template engine that we want to use. But basically, this template engine is being compiled and rendered in an HTML format, and this is what displays what we are seeing right here in the browser. So, oh, you can't see my browser. Oh my god, I've been doing this thing wrong. That's my browser. Sorry. Why did I think that you were seeing my browser? Hi. I need to set up a couple of hotkeys for this OBS Studio. Alright, so that's the browser. Sorry. So what we did is we simply type localhost in our browser URL, and then we set the port to 3000, which is the same port that we saw in our code right here. Right here. So that's the port. All right. Can you see my browser now? I want us to go to some little advanced stuff. And so now, like any servers accept requests, and once they accept requests, they deter the server, the language in your server. You use the server language, which might be Node or your PHP, to determine what to do with that request, and then send a response back to the client, which is definitely probably your end client. Okay, yeah, cool. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna set some data in our back end in our server, and such that once we hit our server in our browser, instead of displaying Express, welcome to Express, we will display all the data that we want to return. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. You remember within the week when we were talking about when you showed me your node, was it a node? No, your Python code where you had like endpoints and stuff like that, and I told that was somehow similar to node server. This is exactly what I'm talking about when you have a router and you define a get method. So we're gonna change this get endpoint to, I'm gonna comment that out, and I'm gonna create a constant named names, and names is simply gonna hold an array of objects where we're gonna have first name is gonna be equals to a string, last name is gonna be equals to that string, date of birth, and let's say gender. And what we'll do, we're gonna create multiple entries in here. 2, 3, let's say 3 entries. So first scenario, it's Paul Lico, gender is male, and then we're gonna have, why did this name just come to my head? Sidonie. That's very Sidonie Whitney, and she is female. And then we're gonna say another female, wow, Paula Leslie, and we're gonna say female. All right, so we're setting this data in here. Basically, this we're gonna call res.render. Instead of doing res.render, we're gonna do res.json, because we want to send a JSON object in. Basically, this is, we're gonna use this object and send it back as JSON data. If you don't know about JSON, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's a format by which applications send data through the internet, or it's a data by which applications communicate together, if that makes sense. So we're gonna send that JSON data called names. I'm gonna save, and then we're gonna come here and hit our Express server again. Nothing happens. That's because we probably need to stop our server and then start it back all together. So we just stopped our server, and I'm gonna start it back by doing npm start. All right, so our server is started again. We now come here and we refresh. Ta-da! That's our data. That's the data that we requested. Nice. There is a browser There's a browser extension that can help you format this data into nice clean JSON. But a way you can see it in a good orderly manner is by doing your inspect. Once you do inspect, you go to your network tab, and then you make sure you have XHR enabled. XHR are all the requests that are being sent to and from a server. So I'm gonna refresh again, and then nothing happened. Actually, something's supposed to happen. Voila. So this is what I wanted to happen. So this is the data that would this is our server, which is localhost, and in our server we can see all the headers and the response that was being sent to the get request. So remember the other time you're showing me there are like a get request, and then I was saying that maybe some headers needs to be sent through stuff. So this is where you see in your browser which headers are being sent and stuff like that. And if we check our response, you see that our response has our JSON object right here. And if you check preview, this is a very clean formatting way where you can see all our JSON objects. Nice. So that is it. That is basically an overview which I told you I was going to show you how to set up like endpoints. And we can go ahead and set up another endpoint if you want. Actually, let's go ahead and set up another endpoint. Instead of doing router.get, I'm gonna come to my app.js, and then I'm gonna set up a new endpoint here. Say app.get, and what is this endpoint gonna list? Names. We'll say names. Let's say names. And then in here, I'm basically gonna copy our previous object that we had in our index. I'm gonna copy this object, and I'm gonna paste it right here. And I'm gonna change the names a little bit so that we know what we're doing. And I'm just gonna put like dummy data. Alright, I'm gonna save it, stop our server, then start our server again. Oops, I forgot one thing. We need to I'm gonna do a response.json names. Alright, so when we hit an endpoint called names, it should just give us all of this data. And once we hit our entry point, it should give us this data instead. Yeah. Alright, save it, and then I'll start our server, and then we go to our browser, and then I'll first hit our 3000, which is the normal endpoint that we have. See all our Paul, Sidonie, and Paula. Alright, what if I try the endpoint called names? We should expect all of these guys. That's the endpoint, and that's the data that's been returned. So yeah, it is really cool. The first time I knew how I learned how you could set endpoints in Node, I was like, wow, this is so cool. So the reason why I'm really excited about Node and the ability for it to start up its own servers is if, say for example, I create a JavaScript application or I create a React application, I can actually like you can actually like merge your Node server with your JavaScript application and run them all together. And with React, it's very easy because React has a way of say if you start up your Node server and you start up your React server, you can be able to proxy your React server. You can be able to proxy every request that leaves your React server to your Node server. So all your backend and your front end are kind of like talking all together, and it's some really, really cool shit, some cool stuff. Yep. All right. So I think that's. If there are any questions, just type it over there, and hopefully this helped to like. I know you're not trying to learn Node and stuff like that, but I hope that it broadens your mind in the Python and stuff like that. All right. So cool. All right. See if there's no questions. Then all right. Hopefully we can link up again. Just hit me up anytime. Anytime you want us to hop on something, anytime you're not clear about something. I mean, even your interviews, yeah, your interviews, just hit me up and stuff like that. All right. Catch you then.